Hello and welcome to the True Crime Never Sleeps show. As always, I'm your host, Larry Least. On today's special episode, we bring you the latest update in the Bryan Kohberger case. Newly unsealed documents in the Bryan Kohberger case have brought significant revelations and fresh questions. Among the most notable developments is the disclosure of both the prosecution and defense witness lists. One name that stands out on both lists is Amanda Kohberger, Brian's sister. This inclusion has prompted speculation about what Amanda might have known and how her testimony could have supported either side. The fact that she appeared on the prosecution's list indicates that she may have had information considered beneficial to their case. It's known that in 2014, Brian Kohberger was charged with a misdemeanor related to stealing Amanda's cell phone. The incident, involving a police report filed by their father, may have served as potential background for character evidence. There was also reports from several outlets, including NBC, that after Brian's arrest, one of his sisters expressed suspicions about his possible involvement in the Idaho murders. She reportedly observed details such as his car that raised concerns. However, this anecdote never appeared in official police reports, leaving its credibility and potential legal utility uncertain. The timing of the witness list release is also under scrutiny. It was reportedly made available to the defense just days before Bryan Kohberger accepted a plea deal. This has led to speculation that the realization of that his own family members could testify against him may have influenced his decision. Given the gravity of the charges, which carried the possibility of life in prison or the death penalty, the psychological impact of involving a family member may have tipped the scales. Legal experts note that in high-stakes cases, defense attorneys typically share such information with their clients. Witness lists are carefully reviewed to identify both strategic advantages and vulnerabilities. Whether Amanda Kohberger would have ultimately testified is unknown, but her presence on the list gave the prosecution a potential path to corroborate timeline evidence, establish behavioral patterns, or fill evidentiary gaps, perhaps even related to the family's shared Amazon account and purchases like the suspected K-bar knife. If prosecutors could eliminate all other users of the account through testimony, it could have been a powerful circumstantial link to Brian. On the defense side, Amanda may have been considered for mitigation during sentencing, humanizing her brother or providing insight into his early years. In criminal trials, placing a family member on the witness stand is a high-risk strategy. Prosecutors must weigh whether such testimony is truly necessary, as family dynamics can introduce unpredictability. While a sibling may offer useful information, they could also withhold details out of loyalty or contradict prior statements, potentially damaging the prosecution's case. This duality may explain why prosecutors placed Amanda on the list, but left open the possibility of not calling her unless essential. Such witnesses are often reserved for rebuttal or specific scenarios, like confirming identity in digital transactions or filling timeline gaps that otherwise remain unproven. In addition, prosecutors have to be cautious. Any inconsistencies from a family member could be seized upon by the defense as evidence of bias, confusion, or reasonable doubt. Adding another layer of complexity, Brian Kohberger's parents were subpoenaed before a Pennsylvania grand jury investigating the death of another woman. Reports indicate the intent was to eliminate Brian as a suspect in unrelated cases, but during this process, investigators gathered information about his early life. Legally, grand jury proceedings are meant to remain confidential and cannot be used as a backdoor to collect evidence for a separate case where the suspect has already been indicted. However, if the grand jury had a legitimate purpose, such as investigating an entirely separate crime, then law enforcement can legally share that information internally if it's deemed relevant to another case. Attempts by the Kohberger family to quash the subpoenas were unsuccessful, which suggests the court recognized the validity of the original grand jury investigation. Whether anything elicited during those proceedings would have been admissible at trial in Idaho is debatable. Generally, grand jury testimony is considered hearsay unless used for impeachment, but it could still spark further investigation and lead to admissible evidence through other channels. Following Kohberger's plea deal, a video surfaced showing him inside the maximum security prison during his intake. This rare and serious breach of security prompted an internal investigation. Authorities ultimately identified the corrections officer suspected of leaking the footage. Surprisingly, no criminal charges were filed. The officer resigned before the investigation concluded, which may have influenced the decision not to prosecute. Legal analysts suggest prosecutors may have determined they couldn't prove intent or criminal misconduct beyond a reasonable doubt, despite the ethical and procedural violations involved. There's also a possibility that internal policies or precedent, if similar leaks occurred previously without criminal charges, played a role in the decision. While no formal charges were pursued, the incident underscores the intense public scrutiny surrounding this case and the challenges of maintaining security even in the most controlled environments. One of the more unexpected names on the defense's witness list was Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a renowned forensic psychologist and author who served as Kohberger's professor and advisor during his time at his university. As the manager of the forensic psychology track, she taught him several courses, including Introduction to Forensic Psychology, Psychological Sleuthing, a death investigation course, Dangerous Minds, the Psychology of Antisocial Behavior, and later in graduate school, Behavioral Criminology. These classes often explored serial killers and mass murderers, including case studies like BTK, a killer Dr. Ramsland had personally studied in depth. Looking back, nothing in Kohberger's behavior raised alarms. He was described as intense, polite, curious, respectful, and academically driven. Like many students interested in forensic psychology, he showed an eagerness to understand criminal minds, but gave no indication that he might become one. The fact that he eventually confessed to such horrific crimes came as a shock. The emotional weight of realizing a former student used the very education intended to protect society in the commission of violence was profound. Educators in criminology are always aware that, while rare, some students may misuse the knowledge intended for justice. And of course, as one of his professors, she was asked whether he would study him, given her academic background and her prior research with high-profile offenders like Dennis Rader. She expressed a willingness to study Kohberger should he be willing. She believes his intellect and self-awareness could make him a valuable subject in understanding how such individuals evolve, hide their impulses, and ultimately act. Her goal would be to identify red flags earlier in other individuals, potentially helping to prevent future tragedies. Although she teaches with optimism, believing that most students go on to do good, this case has served as a sobering reminder that some intentions remain hidden, even from the most seasoned experts. The experience has raised painful questions about whether something in the curriculum could have inspired Kohberger, and what signs, if any, were missed. It has also reinforced the importance of careful ethical consideration in teaching such material. The Kohberger case continues to unfold, even after the plea deal. With no trial to fully air the evidence or test witness credibility, many questions remain unanswered. What role would Amanda Kohberger have played at trial? Why were certain names placed on the witness list? Could Kohberger's education have fueled his criminal actions, or merely coexisted with them? Without further proceedings, much of this may remain speculative. But with public access to more documents and voices like Dr. Ramsland and legal analysts speaking out, a clearer picture is emerging, not just of Bryan Kohberger, but of how justice systems, families, and academic institutions intersect in rare but deeply troubling cases. With that, let me know your thoughts on Bryan Kohberger and the whole Idaho 4 murder case in the comment section below. And with that, give us a thumbs up if you like our video. Hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.